The first thing my brother wanted the world to see was not my face, but the handcuffs. He lifted his phone before the police even knocked, angling the lens so the hallway light caught the steel on the officer's belt and the wreckage of my apartment behind me. At 2:13 inches the morning, my door shook under 3 hard strikes, and a voice ordered, "Phoenix Police. Open up, Natalie Reed." I had been asleep for less than 40 minutes. My hospital badge lay on the kitchen counter beside an untouched mug of tea, and the folders I had spent 6 months protecting sat locked inside a fireproof box under my bed. I opened the door because running would have made their lie look true. 2 officers stood there with a warrant. Behind them stood my father in a pressed blue shirt, my mother in pearl earrings, and my brother Caleb with 1,000,000 strangers arriving in his hand. His Livestream title glowed when he turned the screen toward me. My sister stole from sick babies arrested live. For 1 second the words did not feel real. They looked like one of Caleb's scripted family rescue videos, where he cried beside hospital beds and promised his followers that kindness could heal anything. Then the older officer said, "Natalie Marie Reed, you're under arrest for felony embezzlement, insurance fraud, and destruction of medical charity records." My mother inhaled sharply, but not like a woman shocked by disaster. She sounded rehearsed. My father looked at the floor to hide the satisfaction tightening his mouth. Caleb stepped closer. "Nat," he said in the soft voice he used for sponsors, "just tell them where the money went." I looked past him at the number climbing under his video. 90,000, 200,000, 400,000. Comments flew too fast to read, but I caught enough. Monster, greedy, jail her, stealing from babies. The officer reached for my wrist. I did not pull away. I had spent too many years learning that the truth does not get louder because you scream it. Caleb swung the phone toward my neighbor. "Ma'am, please give us space. This is a painful family matter." A painful family matter. That was what he called it when he turned my humiliation into content. That was what my parents called it when they let him film Thanksgiving arguments, hospital visits, even the day I refused to appear in his charity campaign because the donation report did not match the bank deposits. My father had said then, "Your problem is you care more about forms than people." The cuffs closed around my wrists with a metallic click. Caleb's eyes brightened. He had been waiting for that sound. "Natalie," my mother said, stepping into the frame with tears shining perfectly but not falling. "How could you do this to those children?" Those children. She meant the premature babies whose photos filled Caleb's videos, wrapped in pastel blankets beneath captions about hope. She did not mention that some had never existed outside billing codes and forged discharge summaries. She did not mention that 6 months earlier, I had found 3 identical neonatal assistance claims attached to different names, all routed through the same home care company my parents owned. She did not mention Operation Nightingale because she did not know its name. None of them did. That was the only reason I was still alive enough to be afraid. The officers searched my apartment while Caleb narrated from the hall. For everyone asking, yes, this is my real sister. Yes, our family is devastated. We trusted her with hospital compliance records, and she betrayed the most vulnerable patients in Arizona. My father put a hand on Caleb's shoulder. My mother covered her mouth. They were good in public. I stood barefoot on the cold tile while strangers decided what kind of woman I was. The younger officer came out of my bedroom holding my laptop bag. "No loose papers, no shredder," he said. "Just this and some locked box." The older officer glanced at the warrant. "We'll process it downtown." My pulse kicked once, hard. The fireproof box contained nothing they could use. But if the wrong person opened it before morning, names could disappear, files could be rewritten, and every family harmed by my parents' fake care network might lose the only witness willing to testify. Caleb noticed the flicker in my face. "There it is," he whispered to the camera. "She's scared because she knows what they found." I looked into his phone then. Not at Caleb, at the tiny black eye above the screen. "Save the recording," I said quietly. His smile widened because he thought I was begging for mercy. My father laughed under his breath. My mother whispered, "Don't make this worse." Outside, blue and red lights washed the parking lot and painted my building like an emergency room. Caleb followed as the officers led me down the stairs. He had chosen the angle carefully. My bare feet, my cuffs, my parents behind me, solemn and noble. At the cruiser, he leaned in and murmured, "By breakfast, nobody will believe a word you say." The door shut before I could answer. At the precinct, the air smelled like burnt coffee, wet concrete, and toner ink. They took my fingerprints beneath fluorescent lights that made every face look guilty. An officer asked if I wanted to make a statement. I said no. Another asked whether I understood the charges. I said yes. At 3:02, I was sitting in a plastic chair with ink drying under my nails when a woman in a charcoal jacket pushed through the booking room doors. Captain Elena Morales carried a folder in one hand and a phone in the other. She was halfway through a sentence when she saw me. Her face emptied of color. The folder slipped against her thigh. "Why," she said, each word colder than the last, "is my protected witness in handcuffs?" Captain Morales did not wait for anyone to answer. She crossed the booking room so fast the younger officer stepped back. "Keys," she said, holding out her hand. The older officer frowned. "Captain, we have a valid warrant." "I did not ask what you thought you had. I asked for the keys." No one moved. The only sound was the printer spitting out my booking sheet and Caleb's live stream playing from an officer's desk. Morales turned her head slowly. "Who authorized contact with Natalie Reed without notifying my office?" The older officer's confidence thinned. "The file showed no protection flag. Dispatch cleared the warrant. We were told she was destroying charity records." "By whom?" "The affidavit says a family witness." I knew the answer before he looked down. Morales did too. Her eyes flicked to me. "Remove the cuffs," she said. This time, the keys appeared. When the steel opened around my wrists, blood rushed back into my hands, still painful. I folded my fingers into my palms and kept my face still. Morales picked up the warrant, read the first page, and her mouth tightened when she reached the allegation that I had stolen $486,000 from the Desert Mercy Neonatal Fund. "Put her in interview 3. No questions, no visitors, no phones near that room." "Am I free to leave?" I asked. Morales lowered the folder. "Not yet. The warrant is active until we get a judge or the magistrate to withdraw it. But nobody is interrogating you. Nobody is opening your property, and nobody is touching that lockbox without me standing there." She turned to the officers. "Secure the lobby. If her family is here, they do not come past reception." "They're outside," the younger officer said. "Her brother is still streaming." Morales' expression changed from anger to calculation. "Good," she said. "Let him keep talking." Interview 3 was colder than the booking room. A square table, 2 chairs, a camera in the corner. A wall clock ticked like punishment. Morales sat across from me and placed her phone face down between us. "Tell me exactly what happened from the knock onward. You already have the video. I need your account before the video becomes everyone else's version." So I told her. The time, the officers, Caleb's title. My parents dressed at 2 a.m. like they had come to a scheduled appointment. My father's laugh. My mother's line about sick children. Caleb telling me that by breakfast nobody would believe me. Morales wrote nothing down. She listened the way doctors listen before bad news. When I finished, she finally said, "Operation Nightingale has been compromised." Hearing the name aloud inside a police station made my stomach tighten. For 6 months, that name had existed only in encrypted emails, sealed envelopes, and parking garage meetings. I was not a cop. I was not heroic. I was a hospital compliance auditor who knew how invoices should look when they were honest, and how they smelled when theft learned to look compassionate. Nightingale began with 3 newborn assistance claims, all marked urgent, all approved within 11 minutes, all tied to families who could not be found. The babies had beautiful names: Lily, Mateo, Grace. The signatures belonged to nurses who were not working that week. The discharge notes used phrasing copied from a training manual. The funds did not go to parents. They went to Reed Family Home Care, owned by my parents. When I asked questions, my supervisor said grief made families messy and charity paperwork messier. When I kept asking, my badge stopped opening archive rooms. That was when I copied the access logs and contacted the Attorney General's office. Morales entered the investigation after an informant at Desert Mercy Hospital found narcotic inventory linked to the same fake patient numbers. Babies who did not exist were receiving oxygen, transport services, formula grants, home nursing, and pain medication. Every invoice created a reason to move money. Every false chart made the lie harder to untangle. My parents' company received the contracts. Caleb's channel received the charity glow. He filmed himself delivering donated blankets to mothers who had signed media releases they could not read, then posted tearful monologues about how our family believed no child should fight alone. I watched those videos with the sound off, counting the same boxes moved room to room. Only 9 people knew you were a protected witness, Morales said. My office. Assistant Attorney General Priya Shah, 2 analysts, 1 hospital compliance director, 1 judge, and 3 command-level officers. Your family should not have known we were preserving your testimony for the board hearing. They didn't know the name, I said. They knew I was bringing something tomorrow. This morning, Morales corrected, looking at the clock. 4 hours from now. She opened her laptop and pulled up the access log. My name appeared beside a red confidential witness flag entered 91 days earlier. Under procedure, any warrant, traffic stop, or welfare check tied to my identity should have triggered a mandatory call to Morales. At 1:41 a.m., the flag had been removed. At 1:48, the warrant had been pushed to patrol. At 2:03, Caleb's livestream had gone live from my hallway. Morales leaned closer to the screen. That is impossible. What? The account that removed your flag belongs to Deputy Chief Warren Keene. I knew the name. Keene sat on the Hospital Foundation's advisory board, smiling in gala photos beside my father. Morales's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, then turned on the wall monitor. Caleb's stream filled the room. My brother stood outside the precinct with my parents behind him, telling 500,000 viewers that justice had begun. Then my father leaned toward my mother, unaware of the microphone, and whispered, "After tomorrow morning, the hospital contract is ours." Morales paused the video. "There," she said. "That is motive." Then the progress bar jumped, and Caleb's voice returned, lower now, thinking the stream was muted. "Mom, did you delete the fake patient list?" The fake patient list was not supposed to exist in any place my family could not control, and that was how I knew Caleb had said more than he understood. He did not know the difference between a billing roster, a charity eligibility sheet, and a neonatal discharge index. To him, every document was just a prop unless it made him look generous or someone else look guilty. My mother knew the difference. She had built that list by hand, line by line, under the soft title of Community Outreach Intake, and she had taught volunteers to speak about it as if it were mercy. When Captain Morales paused the live stream on Caleb's question, I felt the room tilt backward into every moment I had ignored, because I wanted to believe incompetence was less painful than corruption. My family's company, Reed Family Home Care, began as my mother's dream. At least that was the story she told donors. She said she had watched her own sister struggle after a premature birth and vowed that no mother should bring home a fragile baby without help. My father handled contracts, my mother handled patient coordination, Caleb handled the camera, I handled distance. For years they called me cold because I noticed numbers before tears, signatures before speeches, missing receipts before thank you cards. At every family dinner, Caleb joked that I could find fraud in a church bake sale. My father laughed hardest. "Natalie believes compassion should come with a spreadsheet," he would say, and my mother would touch my arm as if apologizing for me. I tried to laugh with them until the spring charity gala at Desert Mercy Hospital, when Caleb stood on stage beside a wall of infant photographs and announced that his followers had funded 200 emergency home care packages. The room clapped. I stared at the slideshow and recognized the same child in 3 different frames, cropped tighter each time, renamed under 3 donor tiers. Afterward, I asked my mother where the package records were stored. She smiled too quickly. "Why would you need them?" "Because I audit the hospital's partner charities." "You audit strangers," she said. "Not your family." That sentence stayed with me because honest people never ask for blindness as proof of love. 2 days later, my hospital login failed when I tried to access vendor attachments. My supervisor blamed a system migration. I submitted a ticket. The ticket disappeared. Then a nurse I trusted pulled me aside outside the NICU supply room and said a courier from my parents' company had picked up oxygen monitors for babies whose rooms were empty. I started quietly. I compared delivery slips with discharge summaries with birth records with insurance authorizations. The fraud was not loud. It was delicate, almost beautiful in its patience. A real family would receive legitimate help. Then beside that family, someone inserted a ghost. Same birth weight range, same urgent need, same physician code copied from a real chart. The ghost received formula grants, home nursing hours, equipment deposits, prescription reimbursements, and emergency transportation funds. The money moved out through subcontractors with names like Angel Mesa Logistics and Bright Cradle Support. 2 of those companies shared a mailing address with my parents' accountant. One paid Caleb's production studio for community education media. Another paid my father a consulting fee exactly 3 days before he bought a lake house outside Prescott. When I confronted him with the first invoice, he did not deny it. He studied me across his kitchen island, calm as Sunday. You do not understand how healthcare works. I understand duplicate claims. You understand paper, he said. I understand people. My mother stood at the sink, rinsing a clean glass again and again. Caleb was filming in the backyard, laughing with 2 nurses he had hired to appear in a recovery story. I lowered my voice. Some of these patients are not real. My father's eyes hardened. Be careful, Natalie. Accusing your own family of crimes because you are jealous of your brother's success is a sickness. That was the first time he used the word jealous. Within a week, everyone used it. Caleb posted a video about relatives who hate your purpose because they have none. My mother sent me articles about burnout and obsessive suspicion. My father called my hospital director and expressed concern that I was emotionally unstable around pediatric charity work. After that, I stopped asking questions where they could hear me. I made copies before sunrise. I photographed invoices in stairwells. I saved screenshots to encrypted drives and mailed sealed packets to myself. The more I found, the clearer their escape plan became. A compliance account under my name had approved several emergency reimbursements while I was out of state at a conference. A digital signature resembling mine appeared on vendor exception forms. Someone created an email address with 1 dot added between my first and last name and used it to request expedited fund releases. They were not merely stealing. They were building a hallway that led straight to me. Captain Morales listened without interrupting as I told her all of this, but her jaw tightened when I described the fake email. Why didn't you tell us they had started framing you? I did, I said. I gave it to Keene's liaison 3 weeks ago. Silence dropped between us. Morales looked at the paused livestream, then at the access log showing Deputy Chief Keene's account removing my witness flag. There was no liaison assigned through Keene, she said. My skin went cold. Before I could answer, her phone buzzed again. She read the message once, then turned the screen toward me. The magistrate who signed my arrest warrant had received the affidavit from an internal police address, with supporting files uploaded at 136A. The sender's name was mine, and beneath it, attached like a signature on my destruction, was Caleb's thumbnail, already titled before the warrant had ever reached patrol that night too. By the time the sun rose over Phoenix, my arrest had already become a verdict. Caleb's video had been clipped, stitched, captioned, and pushed through every platform that rewarded anger faster than truth. In one edit, my face was frozen at the moment, the handcuffs closed. My bare feet circled in red, my silence labeled cold guilt. In another, my mother's trembling voice repeated, "How could you do this to those children?" While Caleb's followers posted prayer hands beneath my ruin. Captain Morales kept the precinct television muted, but the headlines still crawled across the screen like insects. Hospital auditor arrested in neonatal charity theft? Family says they are heartbroken. Influencer brother broadcasts emotional arrest. I watched my life become content and felt strangely calm, as if my body had decided panic was too expensive this close to the hearing. Assistant Attorney General Priya Shah arrived at 6:12 a.m. in running shoes, a black suit, and the expression of a woman who had already chosen war. She did not hug me. She did not waste time asking if I was okay. She placed a tablet in front of Morales, reviewed the access logs, watched the muted portion of Caleb's stream twice, and said, "We go to the board exactly as planned." Morales looked at her. With Natalie still technically under arrest? The magistrate withdrew the warrant at 5:37. The arrest report is suspended pending internal review. I want the Health Services Board to see what was done to her before anyone cleans it up. Priya turned to me. Can you stand in that room? My hands still smelled like ink. My wrists still carried red half-moons from the cuffs. My brother had half the city calling me a thief. Yes, I said. Good, she replied. Then don't wash the rest of the fingerprint powder off. At 8:18, Morales drove me through the secured entrance of the Arizona Department of Health Services building. Reporters crowded the front steps, probably waiting for the crying criminal from Caleb's livestream. Instead, I entered through a concrete garage beneath the building, wearing the navy blazer Priya had borrowed from a deputy attorney, my hair combed with my fingers, my nails still gray at the edges. The hearing room on the 5th floor was already packed. Hospital executives filled the first row. Lawyers lined the walls. The members of the board sat behind microphones beneath the state seal, looking irritated by the circus but hungry for control. My family sat at the petitioner's table as if they belonged there. My father wore a dark suit and a tie, the color of expensive wine. My mother had changed into cream, the same color she wore in Caleb's charity interviews when she spoke about fragile infants and God's calling. Caleb sat between them with his phone face down, though I could see his thumb twitching toward it every few seconds. Deputy Chief Warren Keene stood near the back, pretending to read a message. When I walked in, my father's eyes dropped first to my wrists. He expected cuffs. Caleb did too. The disappointment that flashed across his face lasted less than a second, but it was enough to keep me upright. The chairwoman called the session to order at 9:00 a.m. sharp. Desert Mercy Hospital's counsel immediately requested that I be removed from the proceedings due to serious criminal allegations involving charity funds. My father's attorney stood and added that my family had submitted an emergency complaint showing I had used my compliance access to divert money and then attempted to destroy records before the board could review them. He spoke about me like I was not in the room. Miss Reed's credibility is no longer a matter of debate, he said. Her own family witnessed the arrest. Caleb lowered his head in theatrical grief. My mother wiped the corner of one dry eye. Then Priya stood. Madam Chair, before this board acts on a fraudulent complaint, the state requests permission to enter sealed law enforcement materials related to Operation Nightingale. The room changed temperature. Keene stopped pretending to read. The hospital counsel objected at once. Priya opened a folder anyway. Natalie Reed was not the target of this investigation. She was a protected witness. Her arrest was triggered after a confidential flag was improperly removed from her police record at 1:41 this morning. At 2:03, her brother began broadcasting outside her home before patrol officers arrived. At 2:13, she was arrested on an affidavit now believed to contain fabricated evidence. The chairwoman leaned toward the microphone. Captain Morales, is that accurate? Morales stepped forward. Yes, ma'am. For the first time in my life, my father looked uncertain in public. Priya displayed the first chart on the hearing room screen. It showed fund transfers from the Desert Mercy Neonatal Fund to 5 subcontractors, then from those subcontractors to Reed Family Home Care, Caleb Reed Media, and a private account tied to my father. The hospital counsel objected again. The chairwoman overruled him. Priya showed patient IDs next. 37 neonatal assistance claims. 21 had no matching birth record. 11 used duplicated physician notes. 9 were tied to addresses that belonged to storage units, vacant lots, or short-term rentals. The state believes these were ghost patients, Priya said. Caleb whispered something to my mother. Priya clicked again. My forged approval forms appeared beside the real conference badge, proving I had been in Denver when they were signed. Then she played Caleb's live stream. Not the arrest. Not the tears. The part he thought had been muted. Mom, did you delete the fake patient list? My mother went still. Priya turned to the board. We request immediate access to the full hospital user logs. The chairwoman nodded. An analyst connected a laptop. Names began populating the screen. Mine appeared twice. My father's appeared 6 times. Caleb's appeared once. But the name attached to the fake patient list appeared 83 times. Miriam Reed, my mother. She sat 4 feet away, breathing as if nothing happened. My mother's name did not explode across the hearing room. It settled there, quiet and impossible, 83 times in a column of access entries that turned every careful tear she had ever performed into something uglier than rage. Miriam Reed. Miriam Reed. Miriam Reed. The analyst scrolled, and her name kept appearing beside admissions edits, charity eligibility approvals, discharge note corrections, vendor routing overrides, and the creation of the intake file Caleb had accidentally called the fake patient list. My father reached for her hand under the table, but she did not take it. Caleb looked between them with the panicked confusion of a man who had memorized his role but never read the indictment behind the script. For years, I had believed my mother was weak beside my father's ambition, a woman who chose silence because silence was easier than courage. I was wrong. She had not been standing near the machine, she had been turning the gears. Priya Shah let the board sit with the screen for several seconds before she spoke. Miriam Reed was not a passive recipient of vendor reports. She entered the names. She modified the notes. She approved emergency eligibility when no physician request existed. And she did it using a volunteer outreach account that Desert Mercy never audited because the records were labeled charitable support rather than clinical care. The chairwoman's face hardened. "Mrs. Reed, do you dispute that this is your account?" My mother opened her mouth, closed it, and then found the voice she used with donors. "I helped families navigate paperwork. That is not a crime." Priya clicked to the next slide. "It becomes a crime when the families are imaginary." A murmur moved through the room. On the screen appeared 21 infant profiles, each with an assistance number, a parent contact, a supply order, and a payment trail. Beside them, Priya displayed state birth records. No match. Hospital bed logs. No match. NICU wristband registries. No match. "These are not messy files," Priya said. "They are manufactured patients." My father stood too fast. "This is a smear campaign by my daughter because she has resented this family for years." His attorney pulled at his sleeve, but he shook him off. "Natalie never cared about babies or mothers or the work we did. She cared about being right." For a moment, the old reflex rose in me, the instinct to shrink beneath his certainty. Then I saw the gray ink still caught beneath my nails and remembered the cuffs, the lights, Caleb's lens. I leaned toward my microphone. I cared enough to count them. The room went silent. Priya did not smile, but her eyes softened for half a breath before she continued. She showed the money next. Emergency formula grants moved to Angel Mesa Logistics. Oxygen monitor deposits moved to Bright Cradle Support. Home nursing reimbursements moved to Reed Family Home Care. From there, the money split like water finding cracks. Mortgage arrears, Caleb Reed media invoices, my father's consulting fees, my mother's foundation account, a private credit card used for luxury rentals, Caleb filmed as donated transport vehicles. "Compassion is expensive," Caleb snapped. "You people have no idea what it costs to build public awareness." Priya turned toward him. "Your production company billed $38,000 for a documentary series that was never delivered." "We were developing it. The invoices were dated before the patient profiles were created." Caleb's face flushed. My mother whispered, "Caleb, stop." That whisper told me everything. She was not afraid he would lie. She was afraid he would improvise. Priya clicked again, and a photo appeared of my mother at a hospital desk, smiling beside a stack of pastel folders. The timestamp showed 11:12 p.m. on a Sunday, 2 weeks before my arrest. The next image was a system capture from the same night, 26 edits, all under her account, all replacing original parent contact fields with numbers tied to prepaid phones. When Miss Reed requested an audit of these files, Priya said, someone began placing her name on approvals she did not make. My forged digital signature appeared. My fake email appeared. My conference check-in from Denver appeared beside them. The logic of the frame became visible at last. So plain it almost looked lazy. They had planned to make me the thief, the unstable auditor, the jealous daughter who invented fraud, and then panicked when the hospital asked questions. Caleb's livestream was not a family tragedy. It was a public execution staged before a legal hearing. "Why broadcast the arrest?" the chairwoman asked, looking directly at Caleb. He swallowed. "My audience deserved transparency." Morales stepped forward. "Your audience knew patrol was coming before patrol had confirmed arrival. How?" Caleb said nothing. Priya opened a new file. "The state has preserved the livestream metadata. It shows Mr. Reed created the title at 1:28 a.m., 8 minutes before the affidavit was uploaded, 13 minutes before the witness flag was removed, and 35 minutes before patrol reached Miss Reed's apartment." Deputy Chief Keene moved toward the exit. Morales did not look at him, but 2 investigators stepped into his path. Caleb's attorney finally rose, asking for a recess. The chairwoman denied it. Priya lowered her voice. "There is one more clip." My brother's face drained before she played it. The hearing room speakers crackled, then Caleb's voice filled the room, casual and cruel, recorded during the 90 seconds he thought the stream was muted. "Once she's charged, nobody will believe anything she says." My mother's voice answered, low but clear. "Then make sure they see the cuffs first." I heard a sound leave my own mouth, not a sob, not a laugh, something smaller and sharper. For 6 months I had feared my family would find a way to erase the evidence. They had done worse. They had tried to erase me first, and my mother had chosen the camera angle. Then Priya clicked once more, and a search warrant appeared on the screen for my parents' house tonight. The search warrant changed everything because it meant the state was no longer asking my family to explain paperwork. It was going to take the rooms where the lies had been stored. My mother stared at the screen as if the warrant were written in a language she had taught everyone else but never expected to read back to herself. My father's attorney bent close to him, whispering fast. But my father was not listening. He was looking at me with the same expression he used when I was a child, and had embarrassed him by telling the truth at the wrong dinner table. Caleb's phone vibrated against the table. He reached for it out of reflex, and Captain Morales said, "Do not touch that." For once, my brother obeyed. The chairwoman suspended Reed Family Home Care's hospital contract on the spot, froze all pending charity reimbursements, and referred the matter to the Attorney General for criminal prosecution. Desert Mercy's counsel tried to distance the hospital from my parents, but Priya was ready. She presented internal emails showing that executives had ignored 5 audit warnings because Reed Family Home Care brought excellent public visibility through Caleb's channel. The board ordered an external review of every neonatal charity claim tied to the hospital for the past 4 years. My father finally stood, trembling with controlled fury. "This family has given everything to sick children," he said. "My daughter has always wanted to punish us for loving her brother's gift." Priya looked at him. "Your son's gift was filming a false arrest before the warrant was fully processed." No one came to my father's defense. Not the hospital executives. Not the board. Not even my mother. By noon, investigators had entered my parents' house, Reed Family Home Care's office, Caleb's studio, and Deputy Chief Keen's private work locker. By evening, the story online had shifted. The same people who had called me a monster were now slowing Caleb's live stream, amplifying the whispers, circling my mother's face, and asking how a family could smile while framing their own daughter. I did not celebrate. Public opinion turning in your favor does not erase what it felt like when it turned against you. It only proves how little strangers need before they choose a side. The first arrests came 3 days later. Keen was taken from headquarters after investigators found payments from my father routed through a consulting company owned by Keen's brother-in-law. My father was arrested in the parking garage of a private medical office with $40,000 in cash and 2 passports in a leather folder. My mother surrendered through her attorney after the search team found a locked cabinet in her sewing room containing printed patient lists, prepaid phones, media consent forms with forged signatures, and a handwritten note that said, "Natalie must be discredited before board review." Caleb lasted the longest because he believed attention was the same thing as protection. He uploaded a video titled "The Truth About My Sister's Betrayal," crying under professional lights, claiming I had manipulated law enforcement because I could not stand watching him help children. Within an hour, Priya filed a preservation motion. Within 2 hours, 3 sponsors suspended him. By morning, his platform froze monetization on every video connected to the case. He called me once from a blocked number. "You destroyed us," he said. I was standing in the hallway outside Priya's office, holding a copy of my own suspended arrest report. "No," I said. "You streamed yourselves doing it." Months passed in depositions, forensic audits, and hearings where people in expensive suits tried to make theft sound like administrative confusion. The fake patient list became the spine of the case. Investigators identified 64 ghost patients, more than $2 million in false reimbursements, and enough forged forms to turn my mother's soft voice into evidence no jury could ignore. My father pleaded not guilty until the accountant from Angel Mesa Logistics agreed to testify. My mother cooperated only after prosecutors showed her the note in her handwriting. Caleb changed lawyers twice, then tried to sell an exclusive interview about surviving family betrayal. The judge added a gag order the next day. In the end, my father was convicted of healthcare fraud, conspiracy, obstruction, and witness intimidation. My mother pleaded guilty to conspiracy and falsifying medical charity records. Keen pleaded guilty to bribery and unauthorized access of a protected witness file. Caleb pleaded guilty to obstruction, evidence manipulation, and conspiracy after prosecutors proved his livestream was not spontaneous content, but part of the plan to make me useless before the hearing. At sentencing, my mother asked to speak to me. I allowed it in court, where every word belonged to the record. She turned around with shackled hands folded at her waist and said, "I was afraid of losing the family." I looked at the woman who had told my brother to make sure the world saw my cuffs first. "You did not lose the family," I said. "You used it as cover." She cried then. Real tears or late ones. But I had learned not every tear is a bridge. Some are only water around a sinking thing. Restitution recovered enough money to rebuild the neonatal fund under independent control. Desert Mercy paid a settlement to the real families whose names had been used, ignored, or buried beneath fake charts. Reed Family Home Care dissolved. Caleb's channel disappeared, though clips of his live stream still surfaced whenever people argued about cameras, lies, and public shame. I left my hospital job, not because I was broken, but because I no longer wanted to spend my life begging institutions to notice what they were paid not to see. With part of the Whistleblower Award and a grant from the state, I opened the Nightingale Patient Justice Center in a small building across from the hospital. We helped families read bills, challenge charity denials, and understand that paperwork can be a weapon or a shield depending on who is holding it. On the first anniversary of my arrest, I stood outside the center at 2:13 a.m. The street was empty. No police lights. No live stream. No mother crying for the camera. No brother begging strangers to hate me. Just the quiet city and my reflection in the glass door, wrists bare, hands steady. I thought about the night Caleb told the world to watch me fall. He never understood the truth about cameras. They do not always obey the person holding them. Sometimes they turn around. Sometimes they remember too much. Sometimes they become the witness no one can threaten. So tell me honestly, if your own family framed you, humiliated you, and broadcast your lowest moment to the world, would you forgive them because they share your blood? Or would you let the consequences speak louder than revenge? Share your thoughts below. And if this story made you question what loyalty really means, subscribe, and stay with me for the next story. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one holding the evidence that can bring the whole lie down.